Does this cause, you think, depression in a lot of women, where they struggle between a career, having kids? They're kind of like, "What should I do?" In your opinion?
I mean, probably it's one of the, like, main concerns, and I know a lot of women who, like, put it off because the media also tells you that you can have kids until you're, like, don't worry, you're, like, 35 or 38. Look at this celebrity who had a kid when she's 40."
Yeah.
And then I know people who are even mid-30s and couldn't have kids or a little bit younger than that, and they're like, "What? Like, I've been told a lie?"
Yeah.
So,
That's one of the biggest lies we tell women is they can put off
that is
having
and
children
that
and
is
family.
a catastrophe
Yeah, yeah.
because, like, you're missing out on one of the reasons people are people, right? That's
True.
crazy.
Not having kids or choosing when to have them is unfortunately essential for a comfortable life for the average American. If you have kids and pull in an average income, a lot of opportunities shift, and from what I see, it can be hard. Women, for the most part, don't like men. Not most of them anyway. They would rather be single and alone than marry and have a family with an average man. If you want a family, I recommend getting far away from the cities. Find a small conservative town with a place to work. There are still some weird women, but not nearly as many or nearly as bad. Family law has advanced to the point where it is very high risk, but a poor return for men, and low risk, but a great reward for women, particularly if they want to leave it. 80% of divorces are initially started by women. And this isn't just a number we've shared without research, it's a fact. You can Google it. The most surprising bit about divorces is that quite a bit of them are pre-planned for financial reasons. We all understand that even half of the divorce is pretty much the end of it all. As a result, if you find yourself in a married situation, and it doesn't even have to be marriage, the state will recognize that as a common law marriage, even if you live together for enough time, like in many Western countries. Family law is intended to maximize women's hypergamous nature. They are always seeking upgrades to where they are at. I'm aware that some women may point out that their divorces didn't go that way, and that they had to pay the man. Yes, that can also happen at times, especially when the case is too obvious for the whole world to see, when a woman is trying to take all of his resources, even when the guy had practically done nothing wrong to her, not cheated on her, not abused her, not given her love, care, and attention. So, when this sort of case occurs, the judges sometimes rule in the guy's favor, although that's a one-off instance. However, because of the nature of the intimacy market and how men and women connect, guys frequently find themselves in situations where they meet attractive women who end up marrying them, meaning that when they get married, the guys are a few points higher than them. As a result, people are waiting longer to have children than in previous generations, with older women more likely to have fewer children. Several women are also conceiving via fertility treatment, driving a rise in mothers in their 40s.
And that's exactly why I said that in this industry, I'm single until I retire.
But it will still matter.
I don't plan on doing this or getting married or finding the love of my life until I retire, like truthfully. And then
I
after
hope
that
you see what happened to Nina Agdal.
No. And then after that, I will be honest and truthful with the person that I will be getting married to or whatever, and it'll be up to him to accept that, right? So,
and I'm
would
just
be
saying that
his
men's
decision.
natural proclivity is to not accept that because it brings them shame. This is why women struggle to get married when they've made themselves available on OnlyFans, because other men don't want to share. They don't want to share their wife. They maybe will share their girlfriend. They might think it's fun to date a stripper for a little bit. They might think, oh, this means I'm going to have sex 12 times a day. But then when it gets down to just their biological instinct, it's actually quite embarrassing for them as a man, because they can look up your girl and here she is, you know? So that's what I think is happening.
Simply put, men marry for intimacy, social value, feminine comfort, and purpose, which is to be a provider. But when they don't get intimacy, or they don't get that warmth and comfort they need, they start to avoid it. They start to avoid marriage when they don't really need to be a provider, because women are providing for themselves. But when it comes to marriage, the changing roles of women and men have led to the changes that now exist in the concept of marriage. Previously, men and women married at a marriageable age when the woman was in her fertile prime and needed a man to start a family with. The man at that time was expected to provide for the woman, give her a home, and help her raise the children. Now, when the woman does not need a man to provide for her and does not want to have children in her fertile prime, she chooses to spend that time chasing the corporate dream that the woke feminists shoved toward her. She chose to climb the corporate ladder throughout her 20s and most of her 30s. And after the age of 35 and even up to 40, she suddenly realizes she has hit the wall. She realizes she probably cannot have babies, and that makes her frantic and desperate to find a man to settle down with. On top of that, she realizes that all the men who flirted with her and wanted her over the last 10 years have moved on, are financially settled, and living happily married lives. So, she realizes that men would rather be with younger women who are fertile and not too busy chasing their corporate dreams. And that's when it hits through the roof, and she starts going on an anti-man narrative. Truth be told, this is the result of telling men they're worthless, and women that their career is the most important thing in their life. But another perspective is that having kids is expensive, even when the parents stay together. I don't know anyone who divorced and lost their children, who didn't wind up miserable or in financial ruin. Marriages just don't work in today's world. Hell, men and women don't even like each other anymore. Men just can't afford to get married and then divorced and lose at least half of everything they own. They are wising up. I'm older and got divorced and lost almost everything that took my whole life to accumulate. If I were a young man today, I wouldn't get married to save my life. A recent article in a British tabloid said that births in America have been on the decline for years, plummeting 22% nationwide since 2007. With the downward trend prompting warnings, the US is now on an irreversible path of economic decline. The dramatic fall in births and an expanding aging population, experts say, could force a rise in taxes to cover programs like Medicare and Social Security, leaving less disposable income available to bolster spending. Math tells us we have a participation problem. The population is collectively giving up on the entire system. From religion to taxes, people refuse to participate. Neighbors won't talk to each other because there is no trust, the same reason razor blades are behind glass. People avoid cops because we have a quota-based policing system, and cops are increasingly antisocial because everyone is an enemy of the state. We lost our trust-based society, and the only thing that can replace it is totalitarianism. One other thing, if people are taxed more, that'll lower disposable income, and the less money people will have in their pockets, the less likely they will start a family because there aren't the funds to do so. The USA is sadly heading down the same path that China, Japan, and South Korea are going. Broken families, no parents, out-of-control kids. One single generation of exceptionally wealthy brats is all it took to destroy America. This phenomenon is much greater in many other parts of the world. It isn't just the US, and it isn't due to men not wanting to marry. It's strictly educated, working women not wanting to be bothered by having children. I've recently read an article about how there were 0 newborns in over 3 months in Italy. That's an alarming number, being that Italy is an old and traditional country. Thanks to feminism and liberation, women are chasing men who don't want them except for physical intimacy, and regular guys are longing for a family life that they will probably never have. At this point, just watch from a distance as the world burns down to the ground. The fact that fewer and fewer young men are choosing to check out of marriage actually makes sense if you look at the root of all of it. Men are finally waking up and realizing marriage is nothing but a one-sided contract where she gets everything if she breaks it for any reason. Women have been told not to get married. That's the patriarchy. So now you have given both sides huge reasons not to get married. When you really think about it, it makes sense. About 60% of divorce rate is mostly initiated by women, and 20-25% in a marriage without intimacy, staying together for the kids, or fear of losing everything. Marriage is just a horrible contract to enter into with the government. Just do your own thing and keep your sanity. Across the country, Utah recorded the largest decline in its birth rate over the 15-year period, falling 36.2% from 21.2 births per 1,000 people in 2007 to 13.5 births, a decline that has been linked to the Mormon Church becoming more accepting of birth control. Its neighbor Arizona recorded nearly the same large drop, dipping 36.1% from 16.7 births per 1,000 people to 10.7 births in the same time period. Throughout history, men have held the responsibility to protect, provide, and persevere. They were responsible for the protection of their tribe and family, their women and children, and their lands. They were responsible for providing for their families. This included food and water, clothes, and a roof over their heads. Throughout all of this, men were to persevere and fight off enemies, dangerous predatory animals, disease, and whatnot. Their women knew their role was to care for the children and maintain a comfortable home for their men to have a happy and comfortable life. We can see throughout history that whenever men and women have adhered to the roles prescribed to them by nature, they have lived good lives without disruption of peace from infighting or problems with the opposite gender in marriage. Today, all of that has changed. Not only are men, and especially women, not aligned with their own natural purpose, but they are also being spoon-fed a woke anti-male narrative that creates hate for men and eventually takes over men's responsibilities in society. On top of that, the entire legal system is designed to work against men and not consider their input in society or the fact that women can use a jaded legal system to advance their own interests. Due to the serious legal ramifications of marriage in the present day, many men find it impossible to even consider getting married. The ones that do make the biggest mistake of not knowing about it. So the biggest mistake men make in marriage is not understanding how the system is rigged against them. Men now face very high risk and little reward from marriage as a result of how family law has developed and changed over time. That is one of the main problems men have with marriage, and the reason why more and more men are avoiding it. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Support us and help us spread support for men around the world. Do comment and share your thoughts. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.